I'm Fritz Nelson, and we're here in Canada on beautiful Toronto Island, nestled between downtown Toronto and Lake Ontario. Joining me today is Jim Harris, the former leader of the Canadian Green Party. And we're talking about how financial services organizations who are striving to become more environmentally friendly face a daunting and growing list of regulation. Nothing like a little government pressure to drive the point home. Jim, financial services organizations are facing looming regulations. Which are the ones that will affect them the most?
Well, at the international level, it's the Kyoto Protocol. It's a legally binding international agreement that signatory nations must reduce their carbon emissions. But in addition to that, there's increasing regulation at the national level, governments around the world. But also there's a lot of activity at the state and provincial level, and even at the municipal level. So you can expect more government regulation going forward.
Now, do financial services organizations realize this? What are they going to do to make these changes happen?
So McKinsey, which is the preeminent management consulting firm worldwide, has studied the cost to reduce each ton of carbon dioxide using thousands of different strategies. And in fact, 46% of the CO2 reductions we need in North America can be done at a profit. So once an organization gets into this, they realize this is one of the biggest bottom line drivers they could ever have found. In other words, green is green. Green means green. Being environmental means huge savings directly to the bottom line.
You were an attendee at Davos in 2007, the former leader of the Canadian Green Party. What impact do you see Green parties having in political jurisdictions on the legislative process in a way that's going to impact financial services companies?
Wherever we see Greens elected to the legislature or even being competitive in elections, it forces the old line parties to change their policies. And so we see, for instance, legislation in Germany that is some of the most progressive environmental legislation anywhere in the world. Why? Because the Greens are in the Bundestag. So as concern increases around the world on climate change, on the impact that this will have for future generations, we can expect more legislation.
What about things like carbon offsets? There's a lot of cynical folks who think that that's not driving meaningful change.
Well, HSBC, which is the third largest bank worldwide by market value, made a commitment to go carbon neutral back in, and they achieved it in 2005. What that did was it very quickly focused management's attention on this issue of their energy consumption. And once you do that, very quickly data centers come into focus because they use 10 to 30 times more electricity per square foot than normal office space, and in some cases 100 times more. And so very quickly they began to see that to reduce their carbon emissions, they'd have to focus on data centers. And so it did have a positive impact.
Well, what does leadership then look like in this space?
Leadership really looks like making significant goals to dramatically reduce your carbon emissions, and then embedding those goals in every department's objectives, and for instance in IT departments, and then embedding that goal in and tying it to the bonus the CIO will receive that year. And once it's tied into departmental and personal bonuses, let me tell you, change begins happening quite quickly then.
It's been a pleasure catching up with you, Jim, and it's starting to rain here, so we better get ourselves out of it.
Great, Fritz. It's been a real pleasure being with you today.
Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us here at beautiful Toronto Island. Please stay tuned for the next episode of Ecotech.